On nights when storms roll across small American towns, people often retreat behind locked doors, waiting for thunder to fade and morning to come. But sometimes a storm brings more than wind and rain. Sometimes it brings an unexpected kind of healing, and this story begins on such a night. On a divided block where neighbors lived side by side, yet carried silent walls between them. Years of misunderstandings, unspoken grievances, and exhausted tolerance shaping the quiet distance that separated porch from porch, heart from heart, and on that night clouds pressed low and heavy. Lightning cracked across the sky with jagged white fire, and the wind shook loose branches while families hurried to close windows. Bring in pets, brace for the darkness they knew was coming. And when the power snapped off, it felt like the entire world exhaled into a deep stillness. A silence so absolute that even the thunder seemed farther away. And in that hush, a man named Thomas stood by his window, listening to the rain pound the pavement, feeling the familiar ache in his chest that storms always triggered. Loneliness echoing through the rooms where his children once played before they moved out, and before his marriage collapsed under years of strain. And he lit a single candle on the porch because the house felt too suffocating inside. And he sat in the dim glow, letting the flame steady him while thunder rumbled somewhere behind the hills. And in the soft flicker, he remembered a hymn his grandmother used to sing during blackouts when he was a child. A hymn about hope rising in darkness, about God moving even when the world felt empty. And without planning to, he let the melody slip out, hesitant at first, just enough for the night air to carry it across the porch. And his voice, though worn, held a tenderness he had not used in years. And that simple hymn drifted through the shadows of the block, weaving between houses, touching fences and shutters like a quiet invitation. And across the street, an elderly widow named Mrs. Donnelly looked up from her cold cup of tea, surprised by the sound because she had not heard anyone sing on that street since her husband died. And something in the tone pulled her forward, and she opened her door, stepped onto her porch, and joined the second verse in a trembling alto that wavered then strengthened as memory filled her lungs. And inside the house next to hers, two children who had been frightened by the storm pressed their noses to the window, listening as the notes swirled through the dark. And their father, Daniel, a man known for keeping to himself since losing his job months earlier, stepped outside with a flashlight but lowered it when he heard the harmony. And something in him cracked open, a small surrender he had held back for too long. And he hummed along as the rain softened. And next door, a young mother who had been pacing the hallway with her sleepless infant opened her curtains and felt tears fill her eyes, because she had not felt connected to anyone in this neighborhood since moving in. And the sound of strangers singing made her feel seen, held, understood. And she carried her baby onto the porch and let the music wrap around them like a blanket. And one by one doors opened up and down the block as if a switch had been flipped, not electrical but spiritual. Something deep within each person stirred awake by the fragile yet powerful truth that they were not alone. And candles glowed along porches like small flames of hope rising against the storm, and the hymn grew richer, more layered, each voice adding warmth, blending past hurts into harmony, shaping a choir none of them had rehearsed yet all of them somehow remembered, as though God himself breathed unity into their lungs. And Thomas felt his throat tighten as he heard neighbors who had ignored him for years now singing with him. And he closed his eyes, letting gratitude wash over him, knowing this moment was not an accident, knowing this was what it felt like when God knit hearts back together. And the melody swelled through the cool night air, carrying healing through the cracks of every doorstep, touching stories none of them had ever shared, grief none of them had ever voiced. And for a brief sacred stretch of time, the storm no longer felt threatening. It felt holy, as if heaven leaned close to whisper that reconciliation is always possible. And when the last verse faded into the softened rain, the silence that followed felt transformed. Not empty but full, not broken but whole. and neighbors who had avoided eye contact for years now gazed at one another with open recognition, a wordless acknowledgement that something inside them had shifted. And slowly conversations began, quiet greetings that grew into genuine exchanges. Apologies hinted, forgiveness offered, laughter surprising them in short bursts. And by the time the power returned with a sudden hum, and the streetlights blinked back on the block, felt completely different. Illuminated not just by electricity, but by the shared memory of what had happened in the dark. And children waved from porch to porch, older residents lingered to talk. And Thomas stood in the center of it all, watching what God had done with one simple hymn whispered into a storm. And he felt his heart swell with a peace he had not known in years. A peace that settled into the deepest parts of him. And long after everyone returned indoors, he stayed outside looking at the sky now clearing. Clouds drifting apart like curtains revealing a quiet moon. And he whispered a prayer of thanks for a storm that did not destroy but restored, that did not isolate but united. And he knew he would never forget this night when strangers became a choir and a broken block became a family. Because sometimes God sends storms not to shake us apart, but to draw us close enough to hear one another again. And dear friend, if you have ever felt separated from those around you, I hope this story reminds you that connection can rise even in the darkest hours when a single voice chooses courage and others choose to join. And maybe your own storm is not a punishment, but an invitation waiting to be answered. And as this story closes, I want you to carry its light with you wherever you go. Welcome, dear friend. This is Faith Light Stories, where every story reminds us that God never leaves us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if this night of unexpected harmony moved something in your heart, I invite you to reflect, to reach out to someone you have drifted from, to allow grace a chance to rebuild what has been broken, and thank you for listening. May your own storms lead you toward voices you did not know you needed. And may God bless you and keep you close until the next story brings us together again. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe so these stories of hope can reach those who feel alone tonight.